Welcome to my American History Notes, where I read my conclusions I've drawn from studying American history. You don't have to agree with my conclusions, any of them, but you should know about the topics that I mentioned. To begin, we're going to talk about the Mexican War today. And we talked about Congress declaring war on Mexico in 1846, May 14th. We're going to talk about important battles of the Mexican War, were the battles of Palo Alto and Resaca de la Palma before the declaration of war was issued. Then there was the Battle of Monterey, where a strong Mexican defensive force of 10,000 men was defeated by General Taylor's army, followed by an 8-week general armistice, which President Polk disapproved of, and a further advance, which resulted in the triumph for the Americans against Santa Anna at the Battle of Buena Vista, which saw Colonel Jefferson Davis, first Mississippi Volunteers, in the heat of the action. Many southern states gladly sent volunteer troops to the conflict, which, according to Jay, as I said previously, was due to the promise of increasing the number and power of the slave owning states by taking territory from Mexico, which had abolished slavery. Jay insists that the entire justification for Texas revolt from Mexico to begin with was for the American colonists there to join the United States as a slave state. In California, Captain John C. Fremont, supposedly heading a surveying expedition to the west, helped in the efforts to subdue Mexican territory. An expedition led by Brigadier General Stephen Kearny was ordered to occupy New Mexico and Arizona, and Commodore John Sloat took Monterey. Kearny occupied Los Angeles after his victory at the Battle of the Mesa. General Winfield Scott took Veracruz, Mexico, and eventually captured Mexico City, the capital of the country. The 1848 Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo confirmed the southern boundary of Texas and added the territory of what would become California, Nevada, Utah, most of Arizona, New Mexico, and parts of Colorado and Wyoming to the United States. At the same time that Polk was conquering Mexico, or as Jay puts it, stealing territory from one republic for the institution of slavery, he was negotiating in Oregon with Great Britain. Britain balked at U.S. claims to the entire area, but agreed on a border at the 49th parallel. Finally, in 1848, America signed a treaty with Mexico for half of its territory and a payment of $15 million for a half million square miles. Northerners were angry that Polk was willing to shed blood to expand slavery in the South, but unwilling to fight for territory in the North that rightfully belonged to the U.S. The North had a battle cry of 54-40 or fight, screaming that Oregon's border should be to that parallel, 54 degrees, 40 minutes. In both of these disputes, the concept of manifest destiny, first used by Jackson Democrats in the 1840s, came into focus. This is the belief that America was destined to rule from sea to sea, and has even been carried over into the belief that America should have a great influence on the world as it does today, being 25% to a third of the entire world's economy based on who you read, the only superpower, and having military personnel in 175 countries, as some would insist. Manifest destiny was never a policy, but merely an ideal or a vague expression of national purpose. The Roman Empire itself did not expand by a desire to rule the known world, but always to create defensible borders and protect commerce and trade interests, resulting in ever spreading influence and territory. There was also a stated belief in the superiority of the white Anglo Saxon Protestant WASP culture over the Native Americans, the Roman Catholic Mexican, and the French and English Canadians beholden to a monarchy back in Great Britain. This translated into a strong national drive for dominance in foreign affairs, particularly at first in this hemisphere of the world. Polk offered Spain $100 million for Cuba, but Spain rejected the proposition. This would be an issue later at the end of this century. He did score a foreign relations coup in securing a treaty granting the right of the United States for a future passage by railroad or canal over the Isthmus of Panama. Polk was a busy president. During Polk's first 2 years in office, his Democratic Party controlled both houses of Congress, so he got anything he wanted passed in the way of domestic programs as well. He called his program the New Democracy. He got import duties on coal and steel reduced, but due to the unpopularity of the war with Mexico in the North, the Whigs trounced his party in the midterm elections of 1848. He made no effort to run for a second term. One of Polk's last acts was to help start the California gold rush of 1849 after gold was discovered at John Sutter's sawmill by James Marshall late in 1848 by talking by excuse me by James by talking on December 5th in his last State of the Union address about the abundance of gold in his newly acquired territory from Mexico. Polk died shortly after leaving office. His close personal friends saying that his busy presidency had made him old before his time. Sarah Polk was an exceptionally strong first lady who figured prominently in her husband's rise to fame and power. Childless throughout their marriage, she was completely devoted to his career and his health, but the strain of the presidency was too much for him, even though official records say he died in a cholera epidemic. Sarah didn't die until 1891. We're going to talk about Zachary Taylor next, and I hope that you dig into American history.